Welcome to Finessential, a podcast for anyone who wants to learn about business and entrepreneurship. I'm your host Vishnu.
And I'm your co-host Sahil. On this show, we dive into the world of business by sharing valuable insights by interviewing successful entrepreneurs.
Whether you're a seasoned business owner or just getting started out, this podcast is for you.
Tune in to understand essential elements of building a successful business. Thank you.
Hello Deepak.
Hi.
And welcome and thank you for giving us your time for our podcast Finessential.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And now since we are talking to young audience about entrepreneurship business, you have been into sports business for quite a long time and you really love it.
Yeah.
So can you tell us by starting with what really did interest you to get into sports business? What was your motivation? What was your desire to get into this industry?
I mean, it's a great question, but I don't think it wasn't me really trying to get into sports business. I think it was more a career that found me. Certainly kind of when I was first looking into like what I wanted to do professionally, for me, a lot of it was based around like my lifestyle, how I wanted to live. And I felt like if I could be more entrepreneurial, I'd have more control. Like I'd have more control of my time. I'd have more control of like when I could do the things that I wanted to do. And so at the beginning of my career, I started working for sports federations, sports events and things like that. But actually it was a friend of mine who said to me, look, you know, you're very established now in this industry. Why don't you set up kind of your own company and have them as clients? So for me, entrepreneurship is something that I never really thought about when I was younger. But if you look now, I mean, everybody, you know, wants control of their time. You know, everybody has realized like this is a really important thing. How can we move on and how can we do this? And I think entrepreneurship gives people a lot of control, and it also gives people a chance to kind of have their hands in different things, because a lot of the times, you know, if you're working as a full-time employee in a company, sometimes, you know, you are just so focused and so busy in that role that you don't get a chance to do different things. But I think by virtue of the fact that, I mean, I guess you could call me an entrepreneur, but by virtue of that fact, I can teach, I can consult, I can speak, I can be on a panel, I can do different things. And I think for me, that's what's important.
Okay. So now you are into so many things, and now sports is what you really love to do. Can you tell to us more about this industry? Because when we hear about, let's say, to someone that we want to get into sports industry, people generally don't know what it is. Or because from place where I come in India, from my personal experience, if I say I want to go into sports, it's like, what will you do there?
Yeah.
What is there?
Well, I mean, I have the same background as you, Sahil, and I had the same conversations with my family that you're probably having with yours, right? I think, you know, it's interesting because at the beginning when people talk about sports, you know, they think that really the only two possibilities are being an athlete or being an official, right? And they think other than that, I mean, what would you do? But the sports industry it's a business. It's an industry like any other industry, and the fact that it continues to grow, I mean, you know, everybody thought COVID is going to be a big factor that halts the industry. In fact, it's made it grow even more. So the sports industry is always, it's an industry that offers so many different opportunities, because now if you think about it, look, sports is so much more part of the entertainment world than, you know, that it ever used to be. Look at the Super Bowl that just happened, you know, more people tune in to watch the halftime show of the Super Bowl than they do the actual game itself. So when you think about the event side of the industry, the hospitality side of the industry, you know, then you've got the athlete side. You've got so many different avenues that you can go into now, and regardless of what function, you know, you do your degree in, whether it's marketing, whether it's human resources, whether it's finance, you know, a human resources person working for the NBA is still a human resources person. So I mean, functionally, why should we look at the sports industry differently to any other industry that exists? I mean, you know, it's there. And if you look at the growth of the sports industry, certainly it's one that the evolution, I think, is there. I mean, you can certainly see that too. So it's definitely a valid industry. And I mean, I think many people don't get it, because when they think of sports, they just think of fans.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they think. And then they don't really understand that there is a job side to it too. You know, they just think, well, if you want a career in sports, it's just because you're a fan. but they can't equate the fan to the profession. And how does that go? So I think for most people, that's where the challenge is.
True.
Amazing. That's really cool. I'm not sure if it's the name of, if I'm getting the name of the movie right, but I think there's this movie called Moneyball.
Yeah, that's right. Is it Brad Pitt?
I think so, yeah. That's where they showcase, people from finance and people from so many other backgrounds involved in sports. I think there was an entire sequence about how a guy hard codes where each person should go and tries out different algorithms to see which one will give them the best scores. That was when I realized, you know what, there's so much more to this than just being on the field. And even when I used to play FIFA when I was younger, I loved the manager role where you're trading a lot more than the actual FIFA games itself. But moving on to a more personal aspect, sports is believed to teach you a lot of things, especially when you're on the field. I think for basketball, Kobe Bryant came up with this whole concept called Mamba mentality, and that became very, very popular. I think there's a book about it. But when you're on the other side, when you're on the business front, do these lessons that athletes learn also apply to you? And how did you kind of bring into your personal life whatever sports teaches you?
I think so because look, if you think about what is the job of an athlete, right? The job of an athlete is to perform the best that they can possibly be. They've got to be in the best shape, they've got to have the best diet, they've got to have the best advice, they've got to have the best coaching, and they do that ultimately for performance, right? They want to perform the best that they can. That's our role too, right? Our role as a business person is to perform the best that we can so that we can make the event as amazing as it can be, or we can make the experience for whatever it is we're doing. So certainly you can transfer the lessons. I don't think it's solely for athletes, but I think you can transfer those lessons from the athlete side into our business side. Absolutely. But look, sport helps you in so many ways. It helps you in life. You have to be disciplined. You have to be focused. You really have to think about. You have to have a tunnel vision, especially at the beginning. And I think one of the things that I think about growing up as a kid, playing tennis. Tennis is an individual sport. It's not a sport where you can rely on your team. It's not a sport where your team can pick you up. It's a sport where you have to pick yourself up, and you have to figure out a way how to beat the guy on the other side of the net. And sometimes that guy's going to be bigger than you. Sometimes he's going to be stronger. Especially for me, I was a skinny, scrawny kid, playing guys that were twice the size of me. But you have to figure out a way to work it out. And I think it's the same thing in life. You come across a lot of challenges and things like that, and I think the discipline of sports, it does help you, because sometimes you have to figure out. And again, like if you're in an individual sport, it can be a little bit more isolating coming from that background, because you're on your own, versus when you're traveling with a team, you're traveling, you have that camaraderie together, you have that brotherhood together, you have all of those things. But it does make you disciplined, for sure. And I think for me, coming from a sporting background, I think that has actually helped my professional life, certainly. Certainly it has also helped my personal life as well, but I would say in my professional life, it's allowed me to really think about, comparing yourself to the discipline that it takes for an athlete to perform. Well, having been an athlete, obviously not at the same level, but having been an athlete before in the past, I can relate to that, and then try to transfer parts of that in kind of what I do from a business standpoint. Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned how when you were playing tennis, you were the tiny, scrawny kid in I didn't say tiny, I said skinny. But,
okay, sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was always tall.
Okay. The skinny, scrawny kid, and you went up against people twice as big as you. And I think that applies a lot outside of sport as well. Oftentimes in entrepreneurship, that's the case. The challenges you see are unforeseen, even in life, right? And most of the times that intimidates people, and they give up. What kind of kept you going?
That's a great question. I think for me, I don't like to give up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't always get it right, but I don't like to give up, that's for sure. I like to keep going. And I think for me, sometimes the answers aren't always there. It's not always clear in that moment. But if you surround yourself, I've always said, if you surround yourself with the right people, then of course, things do become clearer. So I think for me, it is, look, I mean, there are people that went to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. There are people that went to Stanford. I didn't go to Stanford. My brother did. My brother he's the genius. He went to both those places actually.
Okay.
But for me, it wasn't about that. For me, it was about figuring out, what do I need to do? What can I do? What can I bring to the table? And here's the thing: everybody has a value. And you have to know what your self-worth is, and you have to know what your value is. I think from a business standpoint, I've never had a problem with that. For a business standpoint, I know what I can bring. I know, that I'm going to work incredibly hard. I'm going to put, my work ethic is, I think one of the things that absolutely helps me in this field is, I've always said to people, if you want to work 9 to 5, don't work in sports.
Okay.
Don't work in sports. But if you want to have an amazing career, you want to, experience sports in a way that other people can't because you're in that industry, you got to put the hours in. And in this industry, it's not a 9 to 5 job. And for me, I've never been afraid of that. For me, like the work ethic part, it's not an issue for me. So it's I think that's something that has helped with my perseverance within this field. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, yes.
Okay.
But so it was an inherent thing for you.
How do you mean, sorry?
It was something you were born with, the attitude of not wanting to give up?
No, I don't think it's something you're born with. I think it's your life makes you the way you are. I think, I had a lot of adversity, probably I would say in the first 20 years of my life. So I think it's something that it's that kind of sink or swim mentality. You want to find a way to change things and to make things better. And I think for me, the work ethic has always been a way of me making sure that I'm going to reach the goals that I set for myself.
That's amazing. I have like a follow-up question.
Sure.
Based upon what you said. I've often read that entrepreneurship is very lonely, mostly because you're swimming against the tide. And you're trying to build something for yourself. And in most of the cases, when you see someone, they have a group of people that supports them. Like you said, it's the people that you surround yourself with. Sports is a very, very niche industry. Did you ever feel lonely when you were building?
Yeah, I mean, it's... look, I openly talk about mental health because I'm a huge advocate of mental health. It's something that it's something that affects all of us. And I think since the COVID time, I think more and more people have opened up to the fact that there shouldn't be this massive stigma surrounding this kind of stuff. It is something that we should talk about openly. And I think a lot of the times we relate it solely just to what's happening in our personal lives, but of course our professional lives is a big part of it too. When you are working long hours, when you are traveling to different places, I travel 46 weeks a year. A lot of that time I'm on my own. A lot of that time I'm on a flight on my own. I'm checking into a hotel. And you have friends in those cities because you've been to those places for so long. But you do kind of, as an entrepreneur, you do have a way of life that becomes very disciplined. And at times, of course, it can be lonely. But you do have to think about where you are. You have to think about what you're doing, the impact that you have, and then you have to start taking steps to kind of change what your current situation looks like. For me, I hired someone very special to work with me, as you've met him now, and he's a great guy. He's got some great business experience behind him, and he's someone that I can rely on. He's somebody that I can trust. I can bounce ideas off, and somebody that cares about my business the way I care about it. And I have a great team of people that I've worked with in the past. When you go to events, you have a great team of people that you can work with and so forth. Now I decided that I'm at the next stage of my professional career where actually it would be nice to be able to work closely with somebody and have somebody that shares the same goals and the same similarities and the same mindset. So I think, I've changed my situation now by making the decision to hire a business partner, and I can just tell you, I'm so happy with the choice that I've made and the decision to do that. So I think you have whatever you have. Sometimes it's just about trying new things.
Okay.
And especially that can be something more difficult for someone like me who's been doing this for 20 years, right? Because for 20 years, you've been doing it and you've been doing it a certain way.
Yeah.
But once you then say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it's time for a refresh. Maybe it's time for, let's try something new and see. And so I think that also helps, because when you have these moments where, you have these great ideas and you want to talk about it rather than writing it down on a notepad. You're there and you're talking to somebody and saying, okay, well, let's make this happen, let's do this. And I think it makes a big difference.
I'm so glad the refresh button worked out in you too, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome. Yeah, that's for sure.
Amazing.
That's for sure.
We'll probably show him when we're done talking. We can introduce him to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm sure he'd like that. Yeah, he's great.
Cool. So you told about discipline, work ethics. You talked about mental health as well. And according to one of my professors, sports industry is the best industry.
Now, which one? Who said that?
Yeah, it was you. It was Professor Deepak. So now when we talk about the best industry, and you have also been into mentoring, like you mentor students, you mentor many people who wants to get into entrepreneurship, business, or into sports. You might have heard of many stereotypes as well about people, about sports industry, because whenever I say to anyone from my personal experience that I am doing sports business, they are like, oh, there's a lot of money. And that's what I hear, and I'm like, okay, I don't know it yet, but I will see. So what are the stereotypes that you have heard, or anything you would like to break them down?
Well, the sports industry is for men. That's a stereotype.
Yeah.
That's not true. I mean, you look at the amount of opportunities now. I think there are. It's not a masculine industry as people think that it is. It's an industry for everybody. So I mean, that's a stereotype. Yeah. So you mentioned stereotype. I think a better word though is assumptions.
Okay. Yeah. Assumptions.
Right. A lot of people make assumptions about this and that. Look. The bottom line, I think, about anything is that there are always going to be exceptions to the rule, and everything really depends on how much you want it. I mean, that's the thing that drives everything. It's all about everybody can have goals, everyone can have dreams, everyone can have objectives, but the reason why most people don't achieve them is because they are just it's a nice story, it's a nice narrative to get you through, because you think that you're working towards something. For me, stereotypes and assumptions, they don't matter. I think what matters is how much you want something, because even if it seems elusive, even if it seems impossible, if you are focused on making it happen, it's going to happen. And I think that's a more important question. So when you ask about breaking down stereotypes or breaking down assumptions, I think we can make assumptions about anything, not just in sport, right? But we can make assumptions about anything. The question is, what are you prepared to do to make this work for you? Whatever it is that you have set yourself, but what is it you're prepared to do? I think that's the biggest question. If you can answer that, then you can break down any assumption or stereotype that anybody can have. And you can, any misconception, any family member not understanding your choices, like they can, you can pretty much break all of that down. So, I mean, I think that's where it is.
True.
Yes. When you talk about mentoring young people, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What sort of mentorship you do? Because when I was asking Sahil how you mentor people, he was like, he does everything, sports, business, life. But can you? I want to hear it from your own.
It's hard for me to talk about it because, look, I mean, I enjoy doing it, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's not completely selfless. You know, I spend a lot of time mentoring people, and especially students, and yeah, I try to spend weekends and breakfast meetings even now I have, and things like that, and I try to do that. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I think it's so important for the person that is sitting opposite you to know that somebody cares. And I think that a lot of the times we can go through life not knowing that. I mean, we can tell our friends, we can tell, you know, our family that this is what we'd like to do, and, you know, and all of these things, but we may not get encouragement, we may not get support, we may not get guidance. And it may just be because they don't understand why we want to do something that we want to do. So sometimes it's just important to have somebody on the other side just reassure you and just let you know that, look, you know, you're making the right decisions, and, you know, you're doing the right things. And I think for me the reassurance is really important, and if I can play a small part in helping somebody find themselves, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not totally selfless, because, you know, I mean, when you say it and you introduce it like that, it sounds, you know, amazing, and I, you know, thank you for bringing it up. But for me, it has a lot of purpose and it has a lot of meaning. And I think for me, you know, intrinsically, I feel a lot of joy by being able to do those kinds of things. So I take, I take great joy and pride in being able to be that person. And I think, you know, you also never know what's going on, like what somebody, you know, the insecurity somebody has, the anxiety somebody has, the, you know, the not knowing if they're going to be good enough. Like, you don't know any of those things. But again, if you can play a small role in reassuring somebody and help someone find themselves, then ultimately, wasn't it a good thing that you did? So
that
for me,
selfless.
Yeah, but the mentor, it isn't, because I mean, like I say, I mean, I get a lot of satisfaction and a lot of joy out of spending, you know, as much time as I can doing that. But yeah, I mean, let's just call it what it is. But it's great.
And how does someone get you as a mentor?
Can I?
Yeah. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, about I need the reassurance.
You need the reassurance. Yeah, I mean, you know, so you're very. I think, you know, I mean, but you do need the reassurance, and that's for sure. I have no one thing. I mean, this is now me having a conversation with you rather than for the podcast, but you don't need as much reassurance as you think, because you're so much better than you realize. And I think, you know, it's one of the issues that you have is you really question yourself a lot. You question, you know, are you doing the right thing? Did you do this wrong? Did you do that wrong? You know, that kind of stuff. And I think, you know, one of the things that you have to, I know you want to get better, but one of the things that you have to focus on is all the things that you're doing right. And I think sometimes you miss that. And I think, you know, look, you've always got to be taking steps forwards. You've always got to be building that momentum, and you've got to be seeking that. But I think you also have to enjoy the journey. And for you, like, the journey stresses you out a little too much. You know, you got to enjoy it. I mean, this is your time to enjoy it. Plant the seeds. Enjoy planting the seeds, because, you know, the process is as important as the outcome. But if you don't enjoy the process, to be fair, you're probably not going to enjoy the outcome as much as you thought you would. So part of the effort, you know, that you spend comes into just enjoying everything that you do. And that includes the challenges that you face.
True. Thank you. But yeah, coming to the question back again.
Which was, you have to remind me.
How does someone get you as a mentor?
Yeah.
You just ask. I mean, it's not a. There's no. You know, it's not a. I don't advertise it. It's not a. It's not a. You know, it's a. It's not even. Look, it's human. It's humanity. It's not even about, you know, this label as being a mentor. I mean, it's not even about that, right? It's just about, you know, I would prefer you to look at it as, when can we have a conversation? as opposed to how do we get you as a mentor, right? It's much more, look, people need people.
That's true. And I've always wondered about mentorship. For example, this is like the first time you're meeting me, and you've known him for quite a while. So if someone was to approach you out of the blue, someone you've never met, how do you think that person should approach you if they wanted your time?
Not only you, but anyone whoever they want any mentorship.
Because mentorship is seen as a very generally the people you want as your mentors are people you've never met before.
Yeah.
And
actually, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't think that the people that want you as a mentor are the people you've never seen before, because the people that want you as a mentor are the people that have experienced time with you and they want to have more time with you.
Okay.
So actually, I think that the people that want you as a mentor are generally the people that are exposed to you and they do see you. One of the reasons why I teach in a lot of business schools is for that. It's to give myself to as many people as I possibly can in that setting, because I know how I can, help them in that sense.
Yeah.
So, there isn't a right or wrong way to answer that question. Different people have different expectations. You have to know what it is that you want, because a mentor can't help you if you don't know what you want. So you've got to know what exactly do you want from that relationship, and you've got to go in not with entitlement. Like, you can't go in expecting this, that, and the other. You've got to go in looking at the fact that, look, somebody's going to give you their time. Just take whatever that person gives you, take it, and be happy with it and appreciate it and express gratitude and those kinds of things. But ultimately, you don't have to know exactly what you want, but you do need to know what you want out of that relationship. And I think that that's incredibly important, because a lot of the times when people, when people approach professional people on LinkedIn and things like that, they do it because they look at their profile and they look at the things that they've done and they want to connect with them. But when it's time to connect or have a conversation, they actually don't know why they did it, other than the fact that they were impressed by their bio. Yeah. So you have to know, what is it that you're seeking, because the only way that we're going to be in a position is to be able to, know what it is that you need from us, and we can help you figure that out. But I think there are some things that you kind of need to do in terms of like your own soul searching as well.
Okay. I've never heard that before, but I think I'll connect with a lot of I think a lot of teenagers in general, because I used to approach people that I wanted to speak to like that. I see their LinkedIn bios and it seems very fancy. I used to be a big fan of investment banking, and every time someone had Goldman Sachs investment banker on their bio, I sent them a connection request saying, hey, can we speak for 15 minutes? And never worked.
Well, you should speak to my brother then, because that's his area.
I fortunately got into finance, so that was one good thing. But I think that was an amazing answer.
Yeah, so now that you have said about everything, mentorship, sports business, any advice you would like to give to young people who wants to get into entrepreneurship or sports business in particular?
Don't do it. No. No, I just wanted to say that. No, look, it doesn't matter whether it's entrepreneurship, it doesn't matter whether it's business, sports business, whatever it is. The goal should always be doing something, and this sounds so cliche, but it's so true. But the goal should always be doing something for a living where, I don't believe this whole thing that, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't believe that. And the reason I don't believe that is because you're always going to do things that you don't want to do. You're always going to be, 80-90% of the stuff that you do is routine, it's mundane, it's administrative, it's the things. But you do those things because the top 20% of what you're trying to accomplish and get to, that is so rewarding. And once you're there, you're there. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to do, those other things. So the advice that I give is that don't think that it's easy. It's not easy to get to, but it's so rewarding. And once you're there, you never look back. So one of the things that you have to really think about when you are doing all the things that you don't want to do the emails, the administrative work, all that stuff. But you got to know why you're doing it, and you got to know, that's the process to get to the outcome. So that's number one. Number two is you have to continue to be committed and passionate. And I think, it's consistency is the definition of, being successful. Because if you are consistent at what you do, you show up every day, you're focused and you're zoned in, that absolutely helps you achieve where you're trying to go. Because remember, there's a saying, a champion is somebody that survives a bad day at the office, right? So you look at, you look at the best tennis players in the world, they have a bad day and they still win, right? They still win. So a champion is someone who survives a bad day. And the way you have to think about it is you have a lot of bad days when you're on your way up. When you're trying to figure it out, you have a lot of days where it doesn't necessarily always make sense to you. It's not clear, you're not sure, all of those kinds of things. But it's your faith and your consistency in terms of your habits that enable you to get through. And I think the last kind of point that I would like to make is the importance of giving back. If you can set yourself up in a way that you're always giving back, and you're not just living for yourself, but you're living to be able to give back, that actually makes what you're doing so much more meaningful. Because yes, you can be an incredible successful entrepreneur, you can be somebody that is a high profile individual, you can be somebody that your family is proud of, you can do all of those things, but again, that also gives you responsibility. And it's very important that if you are blessed enough that you are in a situation like that, but then you have an additional role to inspire other people and to help other people try to achieve, the things that is important for them. If you do that, your life becomes so much more meaningful and so much more purposeful. So I think, if you focus on the right stuff, eventually the answers may come. You may not find them today, but eventually they'll come. Yeah.
But I think to close, we should speak to you and ask him why he decided to join you. Amazing. For our last segment, I wanted to speak to you about why you decided to join him, because I think you were the first person to join him. And traditionally, when you join sports business schools, I think for him, he's always dreamed about working at a very big organization, F1, NBA, and things like that. And you spoke about how you were involved in that as well. What drew you to him, and what drew you to pick him?
Should I respond first? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for having me here. And for me, my biggest goal when I was in school was after my scholarship was to work with someone I trust and someone I admire, and who can, every day I know I'm working and I know I'm doing some projects and I know that this is the person I want to do it with. Mm-hmm. And that was my main goal. And after my background of going to the yacht club, but also working for the NBA Global Games in Paris, all these experiences were great. But at the end of the day, it's about having a purpose, I believe, in when you work. So it started like that with Deepak, actually, and my dream was always to work with him. Mm-hmm. And since then, we had so many different occasions to speak to each other, to discuss our visions on life, but also on the business side. And it just came naturally at one point. At one point, we just said, okay, well, let's start it. Let's do something. Let's start this whole project together. And in the end, now it's been 1 month, and it's been amazing for now. So I think we complete each other because we have different personalities.
Okay.
And in the end, that's what you need in a good team. You always need people that are different, but at the same time complete each other, and always with the respect and the will to help the other person. And this is why I think it's a good team, and why we are both happy in this process.
And how do you think more students can find their purpose? Because I think so many of us are students. What what helped you find the purpose that you speak about?
It's a great question, because I don't think purpose is... I think purpose comes through the journey, but you don't have to have a purpose to start.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do something and you feel it's the right way and you feel it's the right person you're doing with,
Mm-hmm.
then the purpose comes on its own. And you have to get started with something. You cannot wait to have a purpose, I believe, to start a project or to start working with someone.
Yeah, look, a lot of people have impressive CVs, they have an impressive background, they have a lot of skills and abilities, and they're able to sell themselves in a way that makes them unique.
Mm-hmm.
Olivier was no exception. He has an incredible background. I mean, working for the Yacht Club of Monaco and the NBA Global Games is massive. But the difference that he has is his heart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has a massive heart, and for me, that is, that for me was an important thing, because when you work as an entrepreneur, the closest person that you have to be able to trust them.
Yeah.
And trust is I believe it's important. It's probably the most important thing in any relationship, whether it's business or personal. So for me, when I saw, what Olivier had to give beyond simply just his CV and his background,
Mm-hmm.
I saw what he was able to do. I saw, his approach to life and the goals and things that he set for himself. And I think, the thing is, for me, I've been doing this for 20 years, but I want somebody to care about, the work that we do in the same way. And I think, with Olivier brings a different dimension to the work, because he makes the work fun, and he has a different element. He thinks differently. He's got the experience of the things that I don't have. What are my weaknesses are his strengths, actually. And the fact that I'm able to use my experience to help mold and shape him, but he's able to make sure that I remain relevant. You see, so I mean, I think that's an incredible thing. And when you have a partnership like this, I mean, there's certain things that you look for in a relationship like this. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing that he has is heart and trust and those kinds of things. And that to me trumps any CV.
Okay.
It really does. So I mean, he's great at what he does. He's got great passion. He wants to learn, and he cares. And I think that's a winning combo in whatever sense of the word. So,
yeah, I think Y Combinator says your co-founder needs to be someone whose skills are complementary to yours and someone who you trust. So I think perfect match. So congratulations on meeting each other.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a good 1 month, and it's been amazing.
Good luck.
Great. Yes.
Now, and stuff.
Coming to the final part, if you can just say how to contact you or reach out to you.
Yeah. So what should we use the company?
Yeah, because it will be ready.
So why don't you? I don't want it because I don't remember it. So why don't you do it?
So yeah, you can reach out to us by going on encouragingexcellence.co.uk, and you will be able to see all the different services we provide. And to reach out to us personally, we have LinkedIn, so obviously you can reach out on our LinkedIn page. I could also give you my number or like stuff like that. I don't know how that really works.
Number would be a little too much. But yeah. But I think
call me.
I can send you photos and you can date maybe in the future. I don't know. But now, I mean, yeah, on LinkedIn. Should we start this again maybe? Like I said,
you can start again.
Yeah. Should I talk about like the website and LinkedIn?
That's you can tell us about the website. Yeah.
So you can reach out to us on encouragingexcellence.co.uk, and you'll be able to see all the different services we provide and have a look at our team. But also you can reach out to us on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. This